presentation. Can you guys hear me? Clear? All right. Good. I might have missed the memo, but I'll guide it. I'll guide it this way. So, good evening. How's everybody doing? Good. All right. So let me just, before I start, should I speak a little fast or mumble, please don't hesitate to stop, ask questions. Let me refresh myself. As many times as you do this, you do have a tendency just to go unconsciously through things. So let me introduce myself. My name is Ryan Castellano. I am with the Long Island Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence. I am a team that we do to connect individuals to treatment for over the last 63 years. Okay, just a quick overview of the agency and what we offer. We specialize in screening, brief intervention, and referral to treatment. We're usually that first step in trying to help people get these proper services and the help they need. We also, along with providing education and prevention throughout the community. And this is one of these community education and prevention. And every time you do one of these things, you're taught until you really see how powerful community advocacy can be, or community coming together to really kind of enforce to provide a type of assistance to an overall epidemic that has been noted as the most deadliest epidemic since the AIDS crisis in the 1980s. So it's always a powerful sight to see people coming out. So I thank you again for coming out and supporting this cause. So along with anger management and student assistance program and community education prevention, we provide harm reduction, this is part of our harm reduction. We also provide clients with fentanyl strips so they can test what is being put in their system. We all know this isn't easy, so our clients are being kept safe. We also offer a 24-hour Suffolk County hotline where, should anybody be in need to speak with a clinician within the area at time, there will always be a clinician on call to help directly to ease the situation, to provide some sort of support, because that's what everybody needs in a time like this. Support is a tool that can go a long way. Any questions on the table? Did I give you No, did I give you a stack? I have them. I'll provide them before you leave. Just remind me. They provide me with a big bag of everything, and I definitely do have them. I remember grabbing them. So, along with every training, and by the end of this, we should be able to discuss the prevalence of opioid abuse, understand the effects of opioids on the body, and recognize opioid overdose, as well as understand the difference of opioid agonists and antagonists, and understand how to provide assistance and administer a reversal for opioid overdose. Now, just some of the statistics coming out from 2017 to 2018. You're looking at drug overdoses resulted in over 70,000 deaths in 2017. This number is frightening, just seeing your reaction. And being around it, definitely we understand. So among these, synthetic opioids were involved about 60%, and of all opioid-involved overdoses, and it has increased by 45% from 2016 to 2017. Staggering numbers. And as a social worker, we always look at numbers. Heroin overdoses on Long Island. Okay, so we're right in the midst of this epidemic, especially being out in Suffolk County. Suffolk County has been number one in heroin overdoses. Number 4 was Nassau County. So Long Island is thrown right into the thralls of this number 3 being Staten Island. This is that's why the importance of community advocacy, communities getting together, communities providing education in order to prevent and fight a head-on monster like. So let's talk about the progression, because there's a big stigma of substance abuse in society, unfortunately. And a goal as a social worker, as a community advocate, as an advocate for my clients, is ultimately to try to reduce that stigma and bring that stigma down. So when we're mediated language, to make a person feel empowered, to make a person show compassion, empathy, and so ultimately support them in future situations. So when we look at the progression, we look at abstinence. People start off, they're not using, everything's a frequent part of motion. Then becomes the infrequent use. At what age, whether it's adolescence, whether it's later in life, it starts you start using it to have a little fun. Maybe to mask it, maybe to mask it. Myself included, we all have things going on in our lives. And whether how we handle it or how we address it, we all have different skills in how we do. We go past that, we go into early abuse. And this is where we come in with the brief intervention, where we get into the education with the schools, where we get into the education with the courts or the pediatric clinics, the emergency help, starting to allow them to feel that they can take on this battle and make this difficult transition in their life. So as we're going into early abuse and we hit abuse, let me backtrack. Early abuse, you start to see how this starts to impact the 6 life areas. And if you look at the DSM-5, the six life areas include physiological, biological, interpersonal, education. If 2 of those 4 areas are impacted, you are diagnosed with a substance use disorder. If the numbers, it's 3. I apologize, as I don't have the DSM-5 memorized, but as you keep going down the list, it goes down to mild and severe. So we start to see in this early abuse and into abuse how this starts to impact every area of your life, whether it's your family, the relationships within your family, whether you're not going to work, whether you're spending more dependence. This is where the physiological piece comes in. When you're talking about after we're using it frequently, whether it's using to mask our symptoms, whether it's to have fun, as we progressively go into abuse, we start chasing the high. Put it this way, an opiate withdrawal feels like the flu over 100 times over. You are in so much pain that it affects everything. You can't go to work until you get what you need to survive. You can't go to a family outing in order to feel good enough to speak to people. And of course, when you start seeing how the progression kind of terms, it starts with maybe a little fun, maybe a little, yes, I'm sorry.
Why just more prevalent here in Suffolk County and surrounding areas?
You know, that's a very interesting question. I don't have the answer, to be quite honest with you. It's you can kind of look back to how this all started with Big Pharma and how everything came about and how prescription and I'll touch a little bit about where it would start, where the early adolescent would start dealing with nicotine and then start dealing with marijuana, and you'll see where so the progression kind of goes from learning to having a good time to masking some sort of skill to kind of keep going up the ladder where it comes to ultimate survival. If you look on the bottom, we have cigarettes, beer, and wine, alcohol. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, you're so kind. I appreciate it. We start with the nicotine. We start with the alcohol. That's the marijuana as we go. But now you see kids normally start on the path, like they normally start on that path to drugs. A huge jump to go to these substances where they would be termed harder drugs, whether that is cocaine or heroin. Now people are making that jump right from liquor and marijuana, and that's part of the reason. Whether it's prevalent in Suffolk, medications were being fluctuated and the government stopped, it wasn't regulating them at the time. So, talked about. With this being available and this being there so early, this progression starts at a younger age. It takes off. So we see that heroin is part of a substance use biases to myself, but you could see people are 2 times, 3 times, 15 times, 40 times more likely to be addicted to heroin. So nearly all people who used heroin also used one other drug. So heroin is a highly about prescription medications. We have painkillers. Examples would be Oxycontin and Vicodin. And these are, and of course stimulants, which are popular ones are Adderall and Ritalin. And now these are most prone to abuse, and these are controlled substances. They're controlled substances. So somebody is providing a way to get or either they're being prescribed a certain number where, oh, I didn't go to med school for not just that reason, but others. But since then, and since this is really dispensing regulations have been enacted, and now it's a federal law. It prohibits possession of drugs without a prescription. Okay, just to get OCs. Oxy 80s or cotton, and that's the first one. All those are due to the amount of dosage that are prescribed in them with the time release capsule. The other one you see here is Vicodins. Vicodins are commonly referred to as Vikes, Watson 387s, and so forth. Sedatives, sedatives which would be Valium or referred to as Tranks, shortage for tranquil. Sedatives are the Xanax, which is usually in terms kind of shortened for two, and opioid withdrawal. That withdrawal is not deadly. So a number of times a person is going to an emergency room. If there are not a number of beds, that person will not be treated for detox because it is not deadly. Hospitals are an emergency room for benzodiazepines because that is the most acute, deadliest form. People can go into seizures. It's not a healthy process. That's the reasoning behind that. And that includes Xanax. Valium is, who can never forget about good old stimulants? We all had stimulants this morning. We all had coffee, right? It's a stimulant. So stimulants are more prevalent now in high school and on college campuses with the pressures of 8-year-olds thinking about getting into Princeton. Think 8-year-olds thinking about getting into Xavier. These are all the pressures that are going on. So when you see Adderall are used as uppers or smart drug background, and also just to touch base, non-prescription medications can also be abused, being part of a concern. So they contain, let me see if I pronounce this right, dextromethorphan, which is also DX at high doses. So let's talk about what opioids are. The term opioids commonly refers to an agonist. And back to my psychopharmacology days, let's see if my professor taught me well enough to remember that an agonist is a substance which combines with a cell receptor to produce some reaction that is typical for that substance. So opioids are the broader term that include opiates, receptors, and part of that brain is responsible for pain rewards, and addictive behaviors. So, example category of hydrocodone. You have oxycodone, where Oxycontin falls under that, and you have fentanyl and methadone. And methadone is a medically assisted treatment used to progress through opioid withdrawal. We also, over here, we have opiates. Now, opiates would be heroin, morphine, and codeine, okay? In all these forms, as you can see, there's a number of them out there right now. So we talked before about prescribing regulations and prescription regulations. ISTOP was effective in 2013. And as to get their prescriptions, or in order to make money from pharmaceutical companies, doctors were writing prescriptions without taking into consideration the care of their client, their patient. They were just writing scripts. Pharmaceutical companies said, you provide this, we'll give you this. Quid pro quo, plain and simple. And so what people would go from doctor to doctor at times. So they would go to one doctor, get a script. Go to another doctor, fill a script. People would bring them out into the street, sell them at street-level prices. This is all how the crisis started to evolve. But now the doctors are required to consult with a monitoring program that's computerized. So they'll be in the registry when writing prescriptions for a certain individual. It would also, it provides practitioners access to view who's already level of care for their clients, okay? And with treatment and controlled substances, and whether they were going to be used for abuse or medical use. This is the puzzle here. This I'm going to skip over because that's out of my realm. I don't do the physics. Let's talk or brownish powder. It has a black or sticky substance. It can be injected, smoked, or snorted. Nausea and dry mouth. People who start using prescription medications and heroin due to trauma in their life, it's self-medication. Okay, reason why, and I don't think anybody has a reason for why people use substances, but 9 out of 10 times, it's some sort of self-medication, whether you're dealing with a co-occurring. So we'll go more into heroin overdose, but heroin overdose causes slow and shallow breathing, blue lips, fingernails, clammy skin, convulsions, coma, and can be fatal. There's also fentanyl. Fentanyl looks like heroin, but it's powerful, and we'll get into how much more powerful they are a little further down the line. It's often now that it's been laced into heroin, it's been laced into cocaine, it's even been laced into marijuana. So you can even get it on the internet. Okay, so the facts about street fentanyl. There's no such thing as a safe street drug, okay? So we're talking about this. So fentanyl is about 50 to 100 more times powerful than heroin. Okay, I'm going to skip to where I have some good, let's see where I have some good notes on that for you. Okay, so excuse me. Fentanyl is about 25 to 50 times more stronger than heroin and about 50 to 100 times more powerful than morphine. Okay, 2 to 3 milligrams can be lethal. And if you picture what a grain of salt looks like, it's about 2 to with fentanyl involved. It does go into your pores. Okay, so if you are not using or if you don't take any opioids, with any direct contact, it can cause an overdose. So it's that powerful. And we will go more into, there's also another type of term called carfentanil. There's another slide that we will touch base on that. Okay, here you go. So that's even perfect. So carfentanil. So this was used as an elephant tranquilizer. Okay? You're putting massive amount of elephants down. This has also been used in the medical world for anesthesia, for other types of service, but it was medically monitored when it was used. Okay? It's 100 times more stronger than morphine. Okay? And 0.00002 grams, picture how little that is, can kill a person. Okay? So that's how dangerous this stuff is. And that's why at LICAD, should we have clients who are struggling to stop using and we engage in harm reduction, we do provide them with fentanyl testing strips. Okay? if they're going to be using, we'd rather them be using them safely. You test a little bit of water, you dip the strip into a little bit of water, and they're able to dip it into the bag to make sure that it's not laced with fentanyl. Okay, so that's where you get to it. You're meeting the client where you're at for that. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the physiology. So I told you a little bit what an agonist was before. The agonist is what we're saying. It binds to that opioid receptor, and out of that falls into the categories hydrocodone, heroin, morphine, and oxycodone. So this can only activate the receptor. But when you're activating the receptor enough, you're developing a tolerance, and that's how you kind of increase that physical dependence. Okay, so overdose can lead to respiratory depression and death as a result of this agonist. Now we're looking at the antagonist, which is naloxone and naltrexone, which are being trained in today. So the antagonist, it binds to the same receptor, but does not produce a response. Instead, it blocks that receptor. Okay, so it blocks it to a natural agonist. It blocks it. So it has the highest affinity for the receptor, will block the receptor from the agonist, and attaching it and activating it will knock an agonist off the receptor, especially in the case of an overdose. That's the physiology. And then when we're getting into Narcan, you can see by the picture, you can see when somebody's taking an opioid, you see how it attaches to the receptor. And then as you see when you're administering Narcan, the Narcan comes in and pops it right off the receptor. Okay? So this also causes gradual withdrawal. So normally when somebody's going to be revived from Narcan, they're going to come up in shock. They're not high anymore. You're going automatically into withdrawal. It's not a pleasant sight. People are not going to be in the happiest mood. People are going to be looking to get into that, and we'll go more in depth into that as I told you how to administer and when we talk more about it. So Narcan will not reverse alcohol, will not reverse ecstasy. However, if you feel a person is overdosing and you're not sure of the substances they are, Narcan will not hurt them either. Okay, so if you do feel that if somebody is having an initial overdose, and we'll go over the signs of what an opiate overdose will look like, but Narcan will not hurt them either if you administer it. So it could also be better safe if you feel that's the need. Or with heroin, variations in the strength of street drugs, heroin, fentanyl, carfentanil. There's also depression. Okay, people who overdose can have a lot of emotions going on. When you have a quick call with death, or you're transitioning to get sober, or you're transitioning, it's a big transition in your life. Whether you're abstaining from those substances due to medically assisted treatments or being in treatment, it causes a lot of emotions. A lot of stuff comes out. And the substance you're using to cope with that emotion, it's like an old friend not being there anymore, right? So there's also one department where we do monitor emergency room overdoses and reach out to people. So and I can tell you by looking at client records and not disclosing anything, that there has been a injection drug use. It's the most popular way to use. And then with abstaining, when you're abstaining from using opiates, you can go a month, you can go 3 weeks, you can go 2 months, 6 months. You could be doing really great, and all of a sudden you have that one setback. The problem is, and why people are dying from this, is because they're using the same amount that they used when they were there. So, and I tell my clients, and I know they're struggling, I know they're gonna. You could always use more. You could use less, but you could always use more, rather than putting that one batch in and having it happen so quickly. So abstinence decreases tolerance, increasing overdose risk, and also increases the great systems that we have in this country, whether it's our hospitalization, whether it's our incarceration. And for the ones that do it right, we have the drug treatment, the detox, alternatives to incarceration, and sporadic pattern amounts to produce the same effect. Why one overdose? So the term opioid refers to synthetic opioid medications, specifically opioid agonists. They can only activate the receptor, leading not just euphoria, but respiratory depression. Essentially, an opioid will put the user to sleep, suppress, and drive to breathe, and that is what leads the person to demise. And this occurs over time, and it is rarely immediate. So this can happen over, for example, hours. A person could use, and their respiratory can keep going down. It can happen over a period of time, not because somebody instantaneous, and a majority of them are witnessed by other people. So many overdoses and fatalities there are preventable in a safe and effective manner. So let's talk a little bit about the sequence of events. Let's look at the signs of if someone's under the influence of downers like heroin or pills. Your pupils can contract. They'll appear small. Muscles are slacking and droopy. They may nod out. They may scratch their skin a lot through the opioids, through the itchy skin. Their speech may be slurred. They may be out of it, but they will respond. But they'll a loud noise or a shake or a concerned friend shaking them, they'll respond to it. So that means they're still arousable, snoring, loud breathing, and they may have access to drooling. When it comes to signs of an overdose, okay, this is their loss of conscious. They're unresponsive to that outside stimulus. They are awake but unable to talk. Lighter-skinned individuals will turn bluish purple. Darker-skinned individuals will turn into a grayish or an ashen. The skin color will change. These are signs that you're able to look at. They could be non-responsive, very shallow breathing, gurgling, skin changes, blue lips, and nails. They will be erratic or not there at all. So this is what. To the left is the old Narcan that you used to receive. To the right is what you will be receiving. You will be receiving 2 4 milligrams that go in nasally, and we'll show you how to use those. You will also be given a face mask, the kit from the box to show how to do this stuff should you forget. Okay, and there's also a card in here that this comes with it too, but there's also a cart in there should you have to use this, and I'll go into the basic things. So out of those things, people are probably like, why do you need a face mask? Why do you need all that stuff? Let's start with what to do if you suspect an overdose. Now, hopefully, if this is going on, somebody would be in the room, somebody else would be with you. But should a person not be in the room, and should you be the only one, the first thing you need to do is call 911. Okay, that's the first initial thing you should do. And under the Good Samaritan law, people who have substances on them, if you're worried about that, you will not be convicted or charged with any possession for any type of substances if you're calling under 911. So, if you're, like I said, you're the only one there and you have to call 911, what you want to do is you want to put them in the recovery position. And let's see if I can just pull the recovery position. This is the recovery position. You're going to want to put one leg, you're going to put one on their side with the bottom arm under their head and the top leg crossed over the body. That is that right there. This is to avoid aspiration should the individual vomit. So the second piece is going to be to administer the Narcan. Okay, note that you're going to have the Narcan. Okay, it's only effective in the case of opioid overdose. Okay, it's best on the side of to administer on the side of caution. So, and it's not known to cause any type of harm like I had spoken to before. So you're going to want to conduct rescue breathing, and that's what the face mask is for. Okay, you're going to put the not breathing at all. You want to tilt the head back, pinch the nose, close. Paramedics have arrived. So you want to watch to see if their chest rises and falls with each breath. As a barrier, just in case we were talking about the fentanyl coming in and getting into your pores. So it's initially you start with 2 quick breaths and then 1 breath about every 5 seconds. And yes. Right, you would put them on their back, right? And the rescue position is if you were alone, okay? So, for example, if it was you and that person having an overdose and you needed to go call 911, you would never want to leave them on their back. You want to make sure that they're able to, just in case of vomiting. Now, I just want to back when you're looking for those symptoms to see if they're going into an overdose or if they're just on the downers to see if they're going to respond to a stimulus. If you think they're overdosing, you want to, like you said, clap over them and rub their chest to see if you get a response. So you're going to want to respond before you administer it. They come to terms. You can see that that's you administer the Narcan, put the shield on after administering the Narcan, and if they're still not breathing after that, you do the rescue breathing until the paramedics arrive. Does anybody have any questions in regards to that? This is a big part of the training, so just wanted to make sure I was clear. I have a tendency to speak fast. I have a tendency to mumble. Yes. Right. So the chest compression should not be administered only by somebody like you who is trained in CPR. Okay, that is something that with this. The only reason why, obviously, if they're not breathing, it's a way to tell if they're in an overdose or they're just on a downer. Though, if they're just high and they're just on the downer, they will respond to that outside stimulus. When they're in overdose and they go into overdose, they will not respond to that outside stimulus. So that should only be included by somebody who is trained in CPR for the chest compressions. Okay. You want to administer the Narcan first. So let's show you how to administer the Narcan. Okay. So the Narcan. Did I just hit this off? Did it go off? Hit what? There you go. None. Awesome. Even better. So when you have the kit, you're going to peel the kit in the back. You're going to open. Okay. You're going to hold the device with your thumb on the bottom. I don't want to open this because there's going to be somebody's. On the bottom, you're going to see the nostril until your fingers touch the bottom of the patient's nose. So you want to get up there to that spot and get it all the way up there. You're going to press, and it's a spray. Should there, for whatever reason, should the person's nostrils be clogged or you don't have access to that, you are able to, if you tilt their head back and you can spray it into their mouth as well, should you not be able to administer it through the. So that's how you administer the Narcan. It's after you administer the Narcan, if the person is still not breathing or do not respond, you want to go with the rescue breathing until the paramedics arrive. Does that answer? Does that clarify? Right, you want to check for their breathing. You want to make sure that their breathing is there. You want to make sure that they're breathing, that they're coming out, and that they're that they're breathing. So these are the rescue breathing steps. Like I said, you tilt the head back, you lift the chin, pinch the nose, start with 2 breaths into the mouth, continue with 1 breath every 5 seconds. And just to backtrack, also after administering the Narcan, you always want to mark the time. Narcan's only good for about 30, I believe 30 to 50 minutes. I gotta check the exact, 30 to 90 minutes. So when the paramedic comes, you want to know the exact time that you administered the Narcan to tell that to the paramedics, because it is a sight. But after you conduct the rescue breathing and you're able to get the person breathing again, the person comes back up. You want to, and once they're breathing on their, and once the person's breathing on their own, you place them back into that recovery position, okay? Like we were talking about before. So you're gonna have the person this is providing comfort and support. You're gonna have the one leg over, the one arm crossed, just to comfort the person as they're gonna come, when they come out of it, they're gonna be confused, they're gonna be upset, they're gonna be going through withdrawal, so they're gonna be feeling really sick instantly, okay? When they revive. So you do not want to allow them to use. That is a problem that can result in another overdose. Children under 5 years old, should a child ingest this accidentally? Should they touch fentanyl? Should they become in contact with opioids or heroin in any way, shape, or form? You want to administer rescue breathing. And then if that doesn't work and they're not breathing, administer the half dose, like a half a shot, if possible. So you can administer 1 4-milligram nasal spray if you have, that would be sufficient for the kit you're getting, excuse me, okay? So you can administer the 1 4-milligram. And you want to assess and respond and administer the second dose if it is needed, okay? You are able to, with an adult, you can administer 2, okay? And it won't do anything to them. If the first one doesn't work, you can give them the second one. It's not going to cause any type of adverse effect. Okay, so after administering Narcan, it acts within 2 to 8 minutes. Okay, if there's no response in 2 to 3 minutes, like I said, give the second dose of Narcan. Like I said before, it lasts about 30 to 90 minutes. Reminder, if 911 has not been called, you do it right away. And you be mindful, like we were talking about, of the agitated client and the extremities, the flailing bodies, and the possibility of nausea or vomiting. That's why you want to put them on that in the recovery position. Okay. That's the recovery position again. So you must leave the client for even a few minutes. Like if you're alone and you're calling 911, this is the position you want to put so they don't choke. Good Samaritan law. This is what we were talking about before. This protects you or any individual if a person is using with somebody, which generally they are, because it's recommended not to use alone. They are excluded from liability. Okay, so they won't be considered first aid or emergency treatment. They won't constitute unlawful practice profession. It allows the medical provider to provide Narcan for secondary administration. So this was put in. So should there be an overdose, there should be no hesitation to call 911. Nobody would be charged with any type of crime, and this was put in to assist with the epidemic that is going on all over the country, and specifically in Nassau and Suffolk County. This is the Good Samaritan law that protects you. Going over it a little bit. Does anybody have any questions about the Good Samaritan law or anything? Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
So they'll call and not run away.
Sure.
Oh my gosh,
And that's why it was put in place, because when we saw history, if people are using, so if you and I were using together and one of us were to overdose, that person who has a bundle of heroin on them or has 50 opioid pills wouldn't want to call in fear of going to jail or being charged or being, and what was happening is, due to that fear, not calling 911, people were dying. And this could be avoided, and that can be avoided. So there's the leeway, so you won't be charged. Did you want?
Is there a 21? I see the last question.
I didn't make this PowerPoint, so the person who trained me in doing this. No, but the answer to that question, if you're under 21, yes, the law does protect you. Nobody's excluded from this at all. Yes. It's out there, yes, and we try to put it out there. Yes, of course. It has it has been caught out there, but you'd be surprised. I mean, how many people in the room were aware of that? Okay, so there's still more work to be done, and that's what this important is about getting involved with the community, having the community involved, spreading the education, going to schools and putting the education and prevention in place. This is one piece of the puzzle of how to fight this epidemic. So that's the big part of communities coming together. The more knowledge you can place on a person, the more tips you can provide a person, the more lives you're able to kind of save and the more families you're able to affect. So knowledge is, I guess it goes back to elementary school when they say knowledge is power. In this situation, it really is. It provides you with some sort, with some sort of comfort. Okay. So your responsibilities after administering Narcan, you complete the initial opioid overdose prevention training, which you're all doing now. When you get these kits, please keep them at room temperature. Do not keep them in your car. Too much heat, access to too much heat, and if it's too cold, the Narcan will no longer work. As a male, I struggle to keep mine on me because I do not carry a bag. Okay. Females, you do have the opportunity to provide that in your purse, so it's something to do. So, but being in the field, I keep it in a backpack. But, you always want to be, aware of the temperature that where it's at because it won't go. Many people do keep them in their cars and it doesn't work. Keep track of the expiration dates. So when you get your kit, check the expiration dates. Always know this one is good until February 2021. It's on the back, located here. Just for you to know. Okay, you want to, every 2 years, we ask that you complete a refresher training. Okay, so this stuff, obviously we went over it very fast. I tried to take myself time, but this stuff can be easy to forget if you haven't gone through the process before. It's pretty simplistic, but at the same time, to do. Yes, please.
But do you dispose of the expiration expired product?
You can just, I'm gonna get into that. If you need to refill it, you can contact LICAC, okay? And we'll refill your kits if it has expired. You might have to sign up for another training, a free training, and another one. I'd have to speak to my training supervisor in regards to that. But to answer, we will work with you. We have provided families with Narcan training on the spot in order to get that stuff as part of our harm reduction tactic. So if it does expire, of course, we will be able to provide you a new one.
If I have one already that's expired, what do I just throw it away?
Yeah, it says nothing. They're unless I don't know who provided that to you or for what training. Yeah, it's not going to work anyway. If you want to refill your kits, you could probably I'm assuming we would work with you. Yeah. So, you had the older one. Yeah, these are better. They're a lot more accessible. Yeah. So they're not. It's not like you need to medically dispose of it or anything. Yeah, it's safe. It's fine. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
It shouldn't be kept in a really, really, really cool air-conditioned bedroom?
No, you don't want it. It doesn't. You never want it. Like for example, you don't want it to get when it's those frigid, cold nights. Let me tell you what the exact temperature is. Okay, so you want to store at room temperature between 59 degrees and 77 degrees. All right, but you don't. People. My point is that people leave them in their cars. Okay. Exactly. So people leave them in the car. So a hot day like today, it's no good. Those cold winter nights, it's no good. Okay. So you just want to be mindful of that and where you're keeping it. Okay. You just want to make sure it's stored at that temperature. When I say extreme temperatures, that's what so I should have clarified. I'm glad you asked. That's a good question. Okay, so you want to contact EMS if a suspected drug overdose and advise if Naxalon was used, Narcan was used. You want to tell the EMS, and you want to report all Narcan use to LICAD. So if you use it, we will refill it. We will refill it for you. Okay. This is just about the assistance program. It's an emergency medication that can stop an overdose. If you carry it, you're able to save a life. Opioid overdose is a sequence of events, not a moment in time, so it happens progressively. You want to know how to recognize an opioid overdose? Call for help, 911, remember the Good Samaritan law, check for breathing, administer Narcan, and report and refill. Anybody have any questions on any of these that we covered? Yes.
So when you said before, 30, the Narcan lasts for 30 to 90 minutes.
Yes.
So,
Minutes to 90 minutes. It'll wear off.
so
Yeah. So
what happens when it wears off?
when it wears off, the person's going to go into withdrawal. Right, so that's and the medics want to be, by that time the medics would arrive. So you want to allow, so you know you want the medics to be prepared to know the exact time that it was, so they can gauge how much time they have until the Narcan wears off. You could also, you could slip back in. It's all for the medical purposes. So you want to know. And then, for example, for whatever reason, if the paramedics don't arrive and you did revive them with one shot of Narcan, you can administer a second one if it's in 30 to 90 minutes. So, yeah, does that clarify?
You have a mask there.
Yes.
When do you put the mask on?
When you do the rescue breathing,
Before,
you're holding the nose and you're going into the face, you want to put that on for rescue breathing. Right.
that on while you breathe.
Right. When you're doing, it's like when you're administering the,
And that person.
right, that shield is going to protect you. Okay. If you have gloves, if gloves are accessible, we did not put gloves in the kit. Gloves we don't have them, but it is recommended if you do have them. So doctors have said that it depends on, there's a lot of factors that come into it, but we are in the process of providing gloves to further kits. Okay. So any other questions? Anyone wants?
Any other questions?
So,
Yes.
so when they get the Narcan, that releases that bond from the receptor.
Right.
Once it wears off, the person just goes into withdrawal. It doesn't,
Right.
the heroin overdose doesn't
So the Narcan.
start over again.
Right. So the Narcan's going to, when you administer it, it'll take 2 to 8 minutes to act. Okay. It's going to take, you got to give it 2 to 8 minutes. It'll last for 30 to 90 minutes. So it's blocking that receptor for 30 to 90 minutes. Okay. So that's the importance of it. So if they go in the overdose and they go into the emergency room, you're easily going to start feeling cravings. They could go, if they use again, it could all catastrophize and make the situation 4 times worse. Okay. And if for whatever reason that a paramedic doesn't get there in 30 to 90 minutes, which would be extreme, you want to just keep tabs on the time. Okay. It's just something to monitor. It's a good question though. It's very important. I might have skipped over that a little fast. Okay.
When the paramedics get there, do they administer something that keeps them from craving it again or getting like that?
Once you tell them, that's the other thing too. Once you tell them that the Narcan was administered, they have their way of treating it. I can't speak on behalf of a paramedic. And I haven't revived anybody. I haven't had that, but just in being trained in it and just knowing these are just the steps that you're able to take as a non-trained medical professional. If you see somebody with it, if it's in your home or whether it's in at a restaurant or in public or something, this is just you're able to. But that's why you always want to provide my paramedics with as much information.
Heard you correctly, for an opioid overdose, they don't recommend the rehab? Did you say that? Or was I?
No, this is actually they don't this is actually a time where hopefully a person will engage and it might be a time where they're vulnerable and you're able to kind of get them into treatment. Thrive has a Sherpa program and it's connected through where if a person does overdose, there are social workers at the hospital, there are recovery coaches at the hospital to try to get them in that state of mind where maybe we can connect them to treatment and give them the warm handoff at the time. So it's hit or miss. I guess the logical assumption would be if someone came so close to death, they would think about going to treatment. That's not always the case. Being that you're in withdrawal and you're feeling that pain, it's like the flu 100 times over. It's exactly like the flu. You're feeling it in your legs. You have no energy in your legs. Your bowel movements are all over the place. Once you get it into your system, you feel like you're able to function. Okay, it's like waking up.
There was a slide when you talked about when they go to the hospital to pay maintenance.
Right. So,
That's what.
So let me clarify. So when we refer clients to detox, okay, if a client's telling me they're coming in and they're using heroin, if a client's telling me that they're coming in and using alcohol, they're using drugs, it's going to be to get them into an inpatient program that has a detox, okay, but due to obvious the broken healthcare system that we have, it may not be acceptable. So the next logical assumption would be to go to an emergency room. Unfortunately, emergency rooms only have a certain number of beds that are available to them and are paid to them. Give it to the person who is at a health risk, which would be the withdrawal from the alcohol or the benzodiazepine. Just because you're in pain, you can't die from the heroin withdrawal. Okay, it's not life-threatening, but it is extremely painful. So that's what I want. Does that answer? That clarifies a little bit more.
Once they release them from the hospital because they're not life-threatening, these people that are going through this, their system sucks.
You said it, not me. I agree. I think that's and as a healthcare professional and as a new social worker into the field, yes, you're right. And but advocacy. This is something where the importance of advocating for your clients, self-done. Okay.
I was literally trying to get into rehab. When was the last time you used, we taking other drugs just to get into a like?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to say anything that I do anything unethical, but the first thing I would do, if that is the case, I try to ask my clients, there's usually more to the story. Okay, if you're using downers, chances are you took uppers to get off the downers to function. If you're using the uppers, chances are you used downers. So alcohol comes into that play. So I will ask them, did you take any alcohol? And to tell them to report that to the emergency room. Not recommended, but right. But you're absolutely right. And that's the setbacks, won't take them back. And listen, that's our job. Okay, so call us. We'll navigate it for you. We'll help you navigate it. Half the battle is knowing how to navigate the system, okay? And we do what we can. And we also are in contact, and we work with a number of treating the proper level of care. We are providing these services. And the insurance, it's a barrier. So transportation is a barrier, especially out here in Suffolk County. So you work with what you're provided, and as an agency at LICAD, also, we will invite the client in. Granted, if the person's in active withdrawal, that can be very difficult, but we'll invite them in. We'll never turn them away, okay? So if the person doesn't want to go to treatment, and it's a hard no, okay, come on back. Whenever you want, come on back. We'll try to move that no to a not yet, that not yet to a yes, okay? That's part of the process. It's part of supporting their self-determination. And we're not here to tell them what to do or how to do it. We will provide, obviously, as a social worker, if we feel they're in imminent harm or there's imminent harm to others, there is a reporting protocol to break that confidentiality. But at the same time, we will never turn a person away. That is not the agency's mission. The mission of the agency is to keep providing a service regardless of your financial status, regardless of your situation. We're here for help the community. You had a question? Right.
First overdose, your second overdose, or someone that's that far gone, they're fighting themselves still with the addiction going into rehab. So I mean, it's a multifaceted
Right.
issue that even a perfect system, you can put an addict to jump right into a rehab because that's their biggest fear.
There's a lot of moving parts that come around, and listen, it's a big transition, and and it's also the fear of the unknown and what a person is going through. So with the fear of the unknown comes the anxiety. Like I said before, it's like kind of your best friend moving away, who's always been there to console you, to get you through tough times, and a way to kind of to mask everything that's going on in your life. Okay, so we understand that. We understand the transition. Like anything, whether you retire from a job, whether you retire. Any change is difficult, but when it's so prevalent and embedded in your life on a daily basis, it becomes even more difficult. And to your point, yes, you're right. It is a voluntary process. So you can't mandate a person that you could legally, they can be mandated to treatment, but through the courts, through the legal system, absolutely. But family members can't mandate. You know, many times family members call me and say, can we mandate them to treatment? No, you can't. It's their decision and action to show compassion and to empathize with them. And along the lines, develop the discrepancy, see what's going on. Try to get them from that hard no to the not yet to ultimately the yes.
Yeah, even if they are mandated, they come out and they use if they're not ready.
Right, and
It's like,
and listen, I tell my clients all the time when I run, and not to context it too, but when I'm running a group and I work with a lot of clients who are legally mandated due through the courts, I tell them, I say to them, I say, look, you guys, we still support your choice here. You still have a choice to be here. It could be Monday or it could be a Wednesday at 6:30 in the summer when you would rather. There's plenty of other things I'm sure everybody would be wanting to do with them. And even if legal consequences are hanging over your head, you're still choosing to be here. You still don't have to go, but you know the consequences that face you. But you still choose to be here. So you support that. You bring that in. You kind of welcome that, and you point that out. On the other lines of what you were saying before, yes, it's unfortunate. You can't mandate a person to treatment, but they could also sign themselves out. Okay, so I had a client recently, connected him to Long Island Center for Recovery. He got there, got confirmed the treatment, everything's all good. Come Wednesday night, come Thursday morning, a dental situation happened, tooth was chipped. That was the reasoning, signed out. What did we do? We provided them with harm reduction. We reached out to the family. We reached out where we had released for. We reached out to him. We just provided him with the tools. Is that if he or she was going to use, do it safely. And it's just provided the family with Narcan. We gave them the fentanyl strips. We told them less is more. Always use with a person. Always have somebody around you. Have somebody check in on you. All parts of the harm reduction. So as much as I love doing my job and I have a passion to do my job, you're not dealing with the population who is going to be the most compliant, and you got to respect that. And the best way to respect that is to get their subjective view of what they're actually going through, and that's a big problem because addiction is not fully understood.
I have a question. When you're administering a second dose, and say that wears off, how much is too much?
There's not too much, okay? So it won't have any adverse effects. Narcan is not deadly, okay? So say you administer the first dose, you want to wait 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, so it's 2 to 3 minutes that you want to wait before you give the second dose. Give it time to kick in, because it can be, honestly, in a situation like this, there could be a lot of panic. There could be a lot of things going on. Oh my God, it's not working. You know what I mean? Okay, give it 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. And that doesn't work, give the second dose. And then hopefully by that time, the paramedics will be on its way. Okay? Because the first thing you want to do is call 911. All right? So if there's 2 doses, there will not be an adverse effect by administering 2 doses. Okay? Same nostril, second nostril. Like I said, it's fine. Either one. If, like I said, the nostrils are clogged, tilt the head back so they don't choke. Just spray it into the mouth.
So in the event it's 3 or 4 doses, it's fine, right?
It's fine, but you want to also, after that second dose, and if they're not breathing still, you want to kind of go with the rescue breathing. That's where the rescue breathing comes in. You want to make sure that you're trying to get them to get breathing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, only because once you administer the dose and then you get the heart beating again and then it wears
Right. Your goal is, after 30 to 90 minutes, your goal is to get them to be breathing on their own. So when the paramedics come.
He's confused, because after it wears off, they just go in withdrawal, they don't go back into an overdose. So I think that's what you're confused about, they go into withdrawal, they get Mylan, they throw up, but they're not gonna overdose again after 90 minutes.
Right. The EMT would be there at that time. They're going to take him to the hospital at that time. The EMT is going to be there at that time. It's just, like I said, it can be, it can be a lot more painful if it is that 90 minutes does pass, and it's just you want to be mindful of the time just in case something does happen. Okay, you want to be prepared.
We have one more question, Mike.
I've seen it deployed on live PD a couple of times. You're saying it doesn't matter which hospital you started?
No.
Okay.
All right, Pat, you wanna go and pray us out? Thank you. We're gonna, after the prayer, we'll just, Mike's gonna be back and he's gonna give out the.
We just come before you tonight, Lord, God, Lord God, we thank you for Ryan, Lord. We thank you for his informative, his knowledge, Lord. But Father, we also rely on a holy God to remedy the situation in Ohio, Lord God. Father, you would drive out the force of this evil, Lord God. And Father, deliver your children from this harm's way, Lord God. Father God, we just thank you, Lord God, that you're beginning to reverse the spiritual, meet the knowledgeable, Lord, and together we could be a spearhead to win the fight before us. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen, thank you.
No, thank you. I hope it was informative. Should you have any questions, I'll give you the 24-hour hotline cards. You could also always contact our agency. You'll be able to reach a clinician that be able to clarify any questions you may have. Like I said, in the back, in your kits, you are going to be given. You are going to. This is not it. You are going to be given the back of the box, which folds out, and the steps are right here. Okay. So it's all there again for you, okay? It breaks everything down. So this is what you, and in a matter of an easier way, instructions are also in there as well, should you want to review them and whatnot, okay? Thank you for having us. Thank you for listening to my annoying voice for the last 40 minutes, all right? If you go, I believe it's Suffolk County Light. If you Google it, I think that's what it is. It is, I'm sorry, I'm not really that on the technology. I think it's Suffolk Light. Yes, it's Suffolk Light. So if you go into the App Store, it'll be Suffolk Light, you'll see, you'll be able to connect yourself. The light cat will come up there. There'll be other resources, okay, to have on your phone.
What's the
Yes.
ingredient that's reversing the overdose? What's the active ingredient?
Well, it's naloxone. Okay, so it's an anti-agonist. It works against the agonist. Like I said, the agonists are substances that bind to the receptor, so they connect to the receptor. They produce the pleasure. And that's the part of the brain that produces pleasure, produces the rewards, produces the addiction, everything. And when the naltrexone is administered, it acts as an antagonist, which kind of allows you to pop off that the antagonist off the receptor and serve as a blocker between the two. But thank you again. I really appreciate everybody's time. I hope. All right. I hope we don't have to do this again. But yes, in 2 years. Hopefully by then it's all cured.